With hundreds of games out each month, it's no easy job to spot those worth spending time with. Welcome to Get Indie Gaming, and to our monthly series looking at 10 indie games, our hidden gems you might not have seen at launch that are well worth getting hold of. Let's begin with Venture Kid, and while it first came out in May 2018, we only recently laid eyes on it following a viewer's suggestion via our Get Indie Gaming Twitter feed. There's no real way to pass over it, but Venture Kid is an all-out and out tribute to Mega Man. This holds pretty much throughout, from how it looks, how it plays, even down to the backstory. We found Venture Kid to be a good old-fashioned NES-style romping adventure. Sure, it doesn't move too far away from the Mega Man formula, although that's really the point. The boss battles are in places fairly tricky, and yet once you have the attack patterns nailed down and memorised, you're usually rewarded in victory with new weapons and from time to time the odd secret here and there. As a nod to the past, Venture Kid does what it sets out to do, and if you have an itch for a Blue Bomber tribute, this is definitely one worth checking out. Venture Kid is available via Steam and more recently on the Nintendo Switch. Coming up next at this month's number 9, Spinnorality is best described by way of mentioning its cyberpunk theme and credentials with an unusual twist. Unlike the more usual take on things where you're playing to overthrow a corporation, in Spinnorality you play as the CEO of a decidedly dodgy company that once read a handout on Google's Don't Be Evil motto before deciding to do the complete opposite. How you go about doing your evil deeds to help your company grow in this turn-based adventure, well, it's pretty much up to you. You can start riots, set out to destabilise other countries' governments, undertake all sorts of international and domestic acts of spying, while also paying homage to the tyrant of Miletus and many others throughout history by taking down those who dare stick their heads too far above the parapet. Perhaps an odd choice for here on the channel given its content matter and our usual choices, although perhaps every once in a while there's fun to be had in being ever so slightly that little bit mischievous. Up now at number 8, and the second game in the series and the first to come to PC, Meteor Krumit's Tale dropped in early access in November of last year. Just like the enormously entertaining Slay the Spire, this one features a roguelike deck building as you make your way through procedurally generated dungeons in what's been designed to give around 45 to 60 minutes of play with each run. It's a fun and all-round gigglesome kind of game to pick up, for example, in the evening when you fancy something that's not too deep or technical. We've really been taken by the script and the whimsical nature of the story. The same is true for the NPCs and monsters you fight. It feels lovingly put together and comes with a suitably endearing soundtrack. Krumit's Tale is expected to stay in early access for between 6 to 12 months, with a full launch most likely come the holidays towards the end of the year. Heaven's Vault, this month's number 7, is arguably the best known of our picks, although given how few folks seem to have played it according to the Steam stats, we wanted to take the opportunity to give it a further signal boost. Out in April of last year, Heaven's Vault is an adventure detector game with exceptionally strong interactive storylines which branches and adapts depending on the choices and the decisions you make while playing. Set within a sci-fi world where people live in pre-industrial conditions, you explore a Middle Eastern and North African-inspired landscape, learning and deciphering hieroglyphics-based puzzles that in so doing offers a truly satisfying and wholesome journey from its beginning to end. To our collective minds, there's very little out there with which to compare Heaven's Vault to. It is, however, a tremendous achievement and one of those super rare games that can make you feel darn smart as you play. For narrative puzzler fans, Heaven's Vault is quintessentially unmissable. At number 6, and from November 2018, Escape from Doodland is an intense co-op 2D arcade platforming auto-runner with an art style that's straight out of a student's sketchbook. You play as one of the titular doodlers, an inhabitant of Doodle World that's been attacked by a merciless monster. We were back when it launched as we are today, massively impressed by the art style and the Wonderland-esque nature of the backgrounds and graph-like paper it's all built on. It is devilishly difficult, perhaps too much so in some places, and yet if you're up for a challenge, love auto runners and fancy something that's more of a test than your average game, then you can find Escape Doodland via Steam or on the Nintendo Switch eStore. At number 5, and out in the summer of last year with a Switch port due to land towards the end of the month, we offer you all Not Tonight, the Take Back Control Edition. Set within a post-Brexit United Kingdom, where Brexit talks have stalled and the government has been replaced by one on the far right, all citizens of European heritage have been rounded up and are on the way to being exiled. Forced from your former life, you find yourself working as a bouncer within the booming gig economy, manning doors of pubs, festivals and parties, while finding work by way of the Bouncer app on your smartphone. Dripping with satire, the writing and narrative is as expected on point, and touches upon so many of the things we see back in the UK and plenty of other places. For those who enjoyed Papers, Please, or anyone who likes a mix of time pressure-based RPGs, then Not Tonight is honestly something to get well stuck into. Up next, just outside this month's top 3, Strikey Sisters is one of the better reboots of the classic arcade action brick breaker we've seen in the last couple of years. Featuring a cast of cute and lovable characters, all rendered within exquisite and highly polished pixel art, these visuals are further enhanced with a darn right catchy synth-driven soundtrack and some really cringy, cheese-laden mid to late 90s themed voice acting that's so darn terrible, it kinda just works and fits in. We're not sure how, but honestly, the vocals do just work. With 3 difficulty modes and a local 2-player co-op option, we found ourselves coming back to play Strikey Sisters more than we had originally thought possible. As it seems each time we play it, we find new secret areas, extra levels, and new parts of the map which keeps us coming back for more. Strikey Sisters came out early last year via Steam and on the Nintendo Switch. At number 3, having moved out of early access and onto the Switch right at the end of last year, Demon's Tilt pitches itself as a tribute to pinball video games from the 1990s with added modern effects and mechanics, with it delivering something that's super enjoyable and hugely entertaining. Spread across 3 sprawling tables, you'll come across hellish boss battles, cryptic secrets, and plenty depth that should keep and hold the interest of casual and hardcore pinball fans alike. To our mind, what holds Demon's Tilt together so very well, aside from the intensity of the gameplay, is the soundtrack. It's all synth-based prog metal, and it really hits all the right notes and bumpers. Up now and at number 2, something so wonderfully silly and jovial. Shipped came out on Steam and the Switch around October of last year. On the face of things, it's a cute, colourful and adorable party game, although under the surface and when played with a few competitive friends and family members, it's able to cause just as much tension and friction as anything as you might see from games such as Heave Ho or those from the Overcooked series. Supporting couch co-op for up to 8 players, all you need to do to win is have your opponents crash their ships onto land, fall off the edges of the map, or shoot their boats into splinters by way of your cannonballs, in what really is, for something looking so simple, is at times utterly brilliant. While there's a single player option, we can't say we've spent long enough with it to pass further comment. For us, Shipped is all about the couch co-op goodness, and as such, it's massively recommended. Taking the top slot in this January 2020 Hidden Gems countdown, Wildermyth came out in early access towards the middle of November of last year, and should be right up there on the radar of anyone who likes character-based RPGs. Unlike some of the standard RPGs you may be used to, Wildermyth is that little bit different, with it borrowing procedural generation usually seen say in dungeon crawlers and roguelikes. Everything from the characters, the plot lines, the story, and interactive dialogue is all put together on the fly, and while it's still within its infancy, from what we've played so far, it really does succeed in offering what feels more akin to a tabletop gaming experience than your ordinary run-of-the-mill RPG. The paper doll-like presentation is also genuinely warming to view, with the combat sections and magic elements also feeling meaty and satisfying to play, with just the right amount of tactical elements bubbling up from under the surface. The same feels true of the central stories and subplots we've come across. There are a few rough edges here and there, and given Wildermyth is expected to remain in early access until perhaps late this year, it's a promising start and quite possibly one to watch for late 2020 Game of the Year rundowns. So that just about wraps things up for today's video. Before we go though, here's a quick heads up to say we're headed to PAX East in late February, and then on March 1st we're undergoing a full rebrand with more shows, a podcast and much more. Don't worry though, the lists and rundowns, well, they're not going anywhere, as we know you all enjoy them as much as we do. Let us know what you would be hoping to see down in the comments or via Get Indie Gaming on Twitter. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you all again here soon for more indie game videos.